Section 7.2, Solving Basic Percent Problems. In this video, we will become familiar with three basic types of percent problems. How to find a given percent of a given number, how to find a percent given two numbers, and how to find a number that is a given percent of another number. Let's begin with the first of these types. Find a given percent of a given number. Let's begin with our first example. Example 1. What number is 25% of 640? Solution. Let x represent the unknown number. Translate the words into an equation. What number is equal to 25% of or times 640? Now solve the equation for x. Change 25% to a decimal, 0.25. Then multiply 0.25 times 640 is 160. Thus, 25% of 640 is 160. Alternate solution. We could also change 25% to a fraction, changing it to 1 over 4. And 1 over 4 times 640 is 640 over 4. And 640 over 4 is 640 divided by 4, which is 160. The same answer. Example 2. What number is 8 1/3% of 120? Solution. Let x represent the unknown number. Translate the words into an equation. What number x is equal to 8 1/3% of or times 120? Now solve the equation for x, because 8 1/3% equals 8.3 with a bar over 3%, which equals 0.083 with a bar over 3. Working with decimals requires that we work with a repeating decimal. To do so, we would have to truncate the decimal representation of the percent at some place and satisfy ourselves with an approximate answer. Instead, let's change the percent to a fraction and seek an exact answer. So changing 8 1/3% to a fraction, we write 8 1/3 over 100. Then change 8 1/3 to the improper fraction 25 over 3. Then 25 over 3 divided by 100 is 25 over 3 times 1 over 100, because we invert and multiply the second fraction. Then multiplying the fractions, we get 25 times 1 is 25 in the numerator, and 3 times 100 is 300 in the denominator. Reduce to get 1 over 12. Now we can solve our equation for x. So x equals 8 1/3% times 120 becomes x equals 1 over 12 times 120. 1 over 12 times 120 is 120 over 12, and 120 divided by 12 is 10. Thus, 8 1/3% of 120 is 10. Example 3. What number is 105 1/4% of 18.2? Solution. Let x represent the unknown number. Translate the words into an equation. What number x is equal to 105 1/4% of or times 18.2? In this case, the fraction terminates as 1 over 4 equals 0.25, so 105 1/4% equals 105.25%, which equals 1.0525 as a decimal. Now we can solve our equation for x. So the equation becomes x equals 1.0525 times 18.2. Multiplying 1.0525 and 18.2, we get 19.1555. Thus 105 1/4% of 18.2 is 19.1555. Find a percent given two numbers. Now we'll address our second item on the list at the beginning of the section. Example 4. 15 is what percent of 50? Solution. Let x represent the unknown percent. Translate the words into an equation. 15 is equal to what percent, that is x, of or times 50. The commutative property of multiplication allows us to change the order of multiplication on the right-hand side of this equation. Thus, we get 15 equals 50x. Now we can solve our equation for x. We'll divide both sides by 50 to get x by itself. So on the left, we have 15 over 50, and on the right, 50 times x divided by 50 is x. And 15 divided by 50 equals 0.30. Thus, x equals 0.30. But we must express our answer as a percent. To do this, move the decimal 2 places to the right and append a percent symbol. 0.30 equals 30%. Thus, 15 is 30% of 50. Alternative conversion. At the third step of the equation solution, we have x equals 15 over 50. We convert this to an equivalent fraction with the denominator 100 by multiplying the numerator and denominator by 2 to get 30 over 100. Thus, 15 over 50 equals 30 over 100, which equals 30%. Example 5. 10 is what percent of 80? Solution. Let x represent the unknown percent. Translate the words into an equation. 10 is equal to what percent, or x, of or times 80. The commutative property of multiplication allows us to write the right-hand side as 80x. Hence, we get 10 equals 80x. Now we can solve our equation for x. We'll divide both sides by 80 to get x by itself. On the right, 80 times x divided by 80 is x, and on the left, 10 divided by 80 is 10 over 80 and reduces to 1 over 8, and 1 divided by 8 is the decimal number 0.125. Hence, x equals 0.125, but we must express our answer as a percent. To do this, move the decimal 2 places to the right and append a percent symbol. So we get 12.5%, thus 10 is 12.5% of 80. Alternative conversion. At the third step of the equation solution, we had x equals 1 over 8. We can convert this to an equivalent fraction with the denominator 100 by setting up the proportion 1 over 8 equals n over 100. Cross multiply and solve for n. When we cross multiply, we get the product of 8 and n equal to the product of 1 and 100, which is 100. We'll divide both sides by 8 to get n by itself. So on the left, 8 times n divided by 8 is n, and on the right, 100 divided by 8 reduces to 25 over 2, which as a mixed number is 12 and 1/2. Hence, 1 over 8 equals 12 1/2 over 100 equals 12 1/2%. Same answer. Find a number that is a given percent of another number. Let's address the third item on the list at the beginning of the section. Example 6, 10% of what number is 12? Solution, let x represent the unknown number. Translate the words into an equation. 10% of or times what number, which is x, is equal to 12. Change 10% to a fraction. 10% equals 10 over 100 equals 1 over 10. Hence we get the equation 1 over 10 times x equals 12. Now we can solve our equation for x. We'll multiply both sides by 10 to get x by itself. On the left, 10 times 1 over 10 times x is x, and on the right, 10 times 12 is 120. Alternative solution. We can also change 10% to a decimal. 10% equals 0.10. Then our equation becomes 0.10 times x equals 12. Now we can divide both sides of the equation by 0.10. On the left, 0.10 times x divided by 0.10 equals x. And on the right, 12 divided by 0.10 is 120. Hence, x equals 120, the same answer. Example 7. 11 and 1/9% of what number is 20? Solution, let x represent the unknown number. Translate the words into an equation. 11 and 1/9% of or times what number, which is x, is equal to 20. Change 11 and 1/9% to a fraction. 11 and 1/9% equals 11 1/9 over 100. Percent is parts per 100. 11 and 1/9 is equivalent to the improper fraction 100 over 9. 100 over 9 divided by 100 is like dividing a fraction by a fraction. So we'll invert and multiply by 1 over 100. Cancel what's common, cancel the hundreds, and we're left with 1 over 9. Replace 11 1/9% with 1 over 9 in the equation and solve for x. So we get 1 over 9x equal to 20. Multiply both sides by 9. On the left, 9 times 1 over 9 times x is x, and on the right, 9 times 20 is 180. Thus 11 and 1/9% of 180 is 20.